Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're your source for weekly Drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
Yep, exactly. Regular dudes drinking, irregular beer and talking about Magic the Gathering arena in particular, and competitive play.
Yes, and then this week we are having our Kaldheim happy hour episode, which we'll get to in a moment, and then also the Strixhaven League Weekend #1 is coming up. So we're going to try to explain how that works to you, and
we'll do our best.
We'll do our best. And then we have some ideas about the Strixhaven spoilers that had come out this week as well. But first, each week we both bring a beer, we drink our own, then drink each other's, then rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic, and choose the best for last. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
Well, I brought a beer I have tried before, and one that I know I love. It's called Twice as Mad. It's an Imperial IPA by Muskoka Brewery. And it's essentially a double version of their regular IPA, which is called Mad Tom, which was one of the beers that kind of got me into craft beer in the first place.
Oh.
And I think this double version is better than that one. So I'm excited for this.
Wonderful.
It's 8.4%, if I didn't mention that. So.
Woof. Nice. I brought a orange creamsicle ale, which is from Railway City. It's a cream ale with orange flavors. It's 4.8%, and it has a picture of a creamsicle on it. Picked the weird-looking one. It's great, as usual. Why not?
Great name, though. Great
name.
Yeah.
Orange creamsicle ale. Like it. Anyway.
This rolls right off the tongue. Because you have to, over-accentuate the A to, creamsicle.
Yeah. It sounds like sick ale.
You just say it quickly, it just sounds like creamsicle.
Yeah. That's basically what I thought when I picked it up. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Magic news. We are finally finished with Strixhaven spoilers. Wow, they feel like they just came and went just like that. Wow.
Yeah. Any thoughts on the full spoiler that we have now?
I haven't really sat down and looked at all of everything yet because it just seems like a lot to read. There's a lot of double face cards.
Well, the great news is you have until September to read them. Because the power level on these cards is so much lower than Throne of Eldraine that I don't see it making a huge impact until those cards are gone.
Yeah. So, but we'll see. You know, who knows? Who knows?
And it might take you till September to read all these cards.
Yeah, exactly. Or actually just comprehend them. I can read them all, but I won't understand what any of them do.
Yeah, there's just so much text.
Yeah, there's a lot of text. It was surprising though, because it is weird now that official spoilers ended last Friday or something, and now we're in commander spoilers for the week leading up to the set actually releasing, which feels odd to me. Mm-hmm. Whatever. This is because this is the big commander product that's coming out is linked with this set, so that's why they're putting lots of emphasis on those decks specifically.
Oh, similar to Throne of Eldraine had the commander decks associated with it?
More so Ikoria last year had the commander decks associated with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Eldraine had some brawl decks that were smaller.
Oh, right. Those were brawl decks.
But this is the big commander product of the year is coming out right now. So that's why they're putting a lot of focus on it.
It's like the Commander 2021.
Yes, exactly. It's that's exactly what it is. So other weird news. There's a lot of strange things that were going on this week. So
yeah, the spoilers were strange.
There were some problems, just some proofreading things where the regular card and then the extended art card had different mana costs, or in some cases they had different creature types. Some of them just had misprints in the name was at the top, but then in the actual text of the card, the name was different. Weird things like that where it's these are proofreading problems that just got missed. But most of those are actually getting fixed, by the way. They were it was just an image error that was given to somebody. They posted it and then everyone saw that. But when it went to the printers, apparently everything's fine. However, for us on Arena, it doesn't really matter because they could change it whenever they want. So it doesn't have a huge issue with us.
The art switch was something that because you were telling me last time about how the Japanese art should mirror the regular card art, and I remember thinking that the art for Memory Lapse made no sense. The Japanese art.
Yeah. So basically, what happened is WOTC had announced they had seen a problem. Is that Memory Lapse and Ephemerate, the Japanese alt art versions, the art had gotten swapped. And
right, 'cause
nobody.
the same artist did both pieces.
Yes. So they're like, okay, that's what it is for that, and they just like kind of slapped it on the card and sent it to the printers. That one will not change, and they will be the two that don't mirror their English counterparts for the Mystical Archive.
But then when I checked and found out about this, the Japanese art for Memory Lapse does mirror the regular art for Ephemerate.
Yeah.
Japanese art for Ephemerate mirrors the regular art for Memory Lapse.
Exactly. So you're like, oh, okay, they would work. But those are the ones that they couldn't catch it before it went to the printer, so they're just going to be printed incorrectly, quote unquote. I guess it doesn't really matter that much. Right. But just so everyone knows, that's what happened with that. Kind of strange. The artist had to be like, hello, nope, that's the wrong one. And that's the only way anybody realized.
The artist posted it on Twitter.
And was like, whoops, no, that's not right. So that's pretty funny. It's not a huge thing, but it is showing. So there's a lot of backlash on Wizards doesn't care about stuff, and they're just trying to throw sets out, and there's cards everywhere, and blah, blah, all that stuff, which is like my first initial feelings. However, most of the things that go on at Wizards every set's about like 2 years or more in the making. So there's a lot of talk of, we're seeing the effects of COVID on Magic as far as like the sets now, where this was probably a set that was getting finished up and wrapped up to do stuff around this time last year. And when there's a bunch of transition of different things happening, people working from home, and a lot of these things could have been falling through the cracks because of that. And I'm just gonna.
I buy that.
I'm gonna buy that. That's fine with me. Nothing so huge that I'm really upset by it, but it is kind of like awkward when you're like, hey, look at this new card. Wait, it's a troll. It's not an elf. I don't know why it says it's an elf. That's weird, or something like that. There's some more drama. There's lots of drama on in Magic. So a WOTC employee who works on Arena was in a Discord server talking about, Arena things. And someone had asked them how they can get spectator mode on Arena. Like, hey, let's do this thing. It's something that we've talked about in the show a lot. We want to have spectator mode. Let's get this in the client. And that employee said that the only, in the realm of the spectator mode, the people that have to do it are the ones who put the cards in Arena. And WOTC says that 0.25%, so 0.25% of the community would use that feature, so it's not worth their time.
He said, LOL, no.
Basically. He said it's not going to happen. The bad thing that came from this, so obviously this was someone who's trying to give us inside information about something we want to know, which is great, and I really love that they did that. I don't really like that community on that Discord ran him, I think his name's Ian, ran him off of Discord and just completely out of everything because people were berating this person so intensely about how stupid that was. They were so mad. Now, I do feel like, personally, I feel like it's kind of stupid.
It was his choice.
But it's ridiculous that the community would react this way. Now, again, I'm surprised. I should not be surprised, but I'm always surprised that these things happen in the Magic community, but they do. So that's terrible. That shouldn't happen.
Imagine having that much conviction anyways that it's not the right move for the company that's not yours. Like this company does have to make decisions that are in its own best interests, and they have a ton of analytics to support the decisions. And we have nothing. We just want spectator mode and think it would be good for them to do it. Like,
I still think
it's
they should do it.
It's ridiculous to berate somebody. Even if he had made the decision even if it was him who made the decision not to do it, it's like he is acting in the best interest of the company he works for, and he has a ton of analytics and has done some analysis. It's not just something they were like, nah.
Yeah. I disagree. I think that they should just do it, but I know it's not just going to happen like that. But again, like, no one should ever be attacking employees that have no say in this kind of thing. That's just
for sure
barbaric.
That's obviously
ridiculous.
Point number one.
Yeah, that's point number one.
I was just trying to add on the fact
for sure.
that it's like you don't know, and if you had to make decisions that actually affected your own well-being and how much money the company makes, you would think twice about whether it's the right choice.
Exactly.
it's easy to just say, oh, of course you'd make more money if you put in a spectator mode because you get more viewers and whatever. It's like, yeah, but the thing is, how many more viewers will it counteract all the negative
costs
effects and the time spent on doing it?
The employees that you hired and or taking people off of things or whatever they have to do. It's a lot more. Everything is always more complicated than you think it is. So just always think about that. Anyway, that has been a lot of stuff this week. There's even more things we will not talk about as, well, that's just how things go. But I think we should just jump right into our happy hour, don't you think?
Yes.
All right. So I believe we've had a happy hour before. We did it for Zendikar Rising. So we're coming back to it. But Jeff, we did not explain exactly what our happy hour is, I feel like, last time. So let's just
that's definitely possible.
Let's take a moment to just be like, what is a happy hour?
All right, so a happy hour is kind of us looking back on a set. Okay, so Kaldheim is coming to a close. We're about to move into Strixhaven, and we want to look back on Kaldheim. But we want to look back on what we liked about Kaldheim. What was good, what was, well executed. So even if it wasn't our favorite set overall, there's still always going to be things that we can find that we liked, that the Wizards team did really well, Because it's really easy to get bogged down in the things you don't like and the things that they made a mistake on. And you can forget about all the cool things that they did do. So we wanted to just spend some time to look back on Kaldheim and say, why was this set awesome?
Exactly. And who doesn't like a happy hour? Am I right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So let's just start. I kind of chunked this out into different categories just to try to organize our thoughts because I do have a lot of them.
Yeah, I like that. That.
But I just want to start just purely on card sense, just cards we were excited about, cycles we thought were cool, the fact that they put more words on cards than they have in the past. That's all that stuff. It's great.
A title soon to be stolen from it, I think.
Yes.
Of wordiest set. I think it won't be that for
long. No, Strixhaven's 100% got to beat. After looking at the fact that I did read all the Kaldheim spoilers and the Strixhaven ones, I'm like, I can't. Some of these it's just I'm gonna have to just play this and figure it out because
yeah, it's a two-sided card and each side does 3 or 4 things.
There's one. I think there was one. Anyway, I don't want to get into it. Never mind. Let's talk about Kaldheim.
So I feel like we got to start, if we're talking cards, got to start with the pathways.
Absolutely.
So we all knew they were coming. We knew pathways were great from Zendikar Rising. But what I wanted to say about this is I'm just really happy that they did it. They completed the cycle right away. Because sometimes in the past they have a habit of giving you just half of the lands of a certain cycle. And then they'll try to balance it by giving you different lands and giving you the other half of those, but one of them ends up just being way stronger, and so certain color pairs kind of become unplayable because the mana's too bad. And so this way, to just finish this cycle of awesome pathways right away, it just gave us a ton more options immediately.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad they didn't make us wait 2 years.
Some of them waits have been so long,
Yeah. You're like, oh, you know what? We're gonna wait until the other ones rotate out, so then the other pair they get they get it for a while.
And the fetch lands, the border completely changed how the cards look
all that
between
kind of
the first set and the second set.
Yeah. So that's great. I really love having access to that. It makes it feel like you can build kind of any color pair that you want, which before felt like you were a little hindered. So it's just obviously nice to kind of complete that. I do personally, I was really, really happy with some of the flavor components they had in some of these cards.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't talk about Kaldheim without talking about the ox and the plow. I really think that has got to be one of my... I know it's terrible and all that stuff, but I really thought...
I lost to it in Limited and I was sad.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was a really strong curve out of ox into plow into a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, but I think that's what was fun. It was they were cards that really only wanted each other. They're not super constructed playable, but you could build decks around them if you wanted because they.
I saw some people playing the plow seriously in Star City games.
Oh damn! Okay, well that's pretty sweet. That's good to know.
Not really sure why. I think it
just as a meme.
It had something to do with the life gain. The fact that
you could gain
3 life right away, or 3 life.
You gain
or
3
whatever.
life. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true because it triggers all the life gain cards. Okay, that was a smart ad. Huh, that's kind of cool. I didn't even think about that, but
I wish I could remember the deck list a little more, but
yeah. But I love that that flavor was just such a little cherry that was just like not even like Viking related really or anything. It could have been in a core set, you know?
It's like a Norse thing, right? Using an ox to plow your fields.
Yeah, exactly. But that was great. I thought that was super fun, and it still makes me laugh every time I see it. It's just a joy that never really.
It is a fun couple of designs for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then the other obviously kind of big thing that, if we're talking card by card, is just the gods.
Oh.
Right, that was a huge part of this set, and I thought they were awesome. They kind of nailed it on the gods. None of them were way too powerful. Like I feel like every time they've done gods in the past, there always ends up being one that's just awesome and the rest suck. Looking at you, Hazaret. And this time, none of them were awesome, really. I guess like if I had to pick which one's the best or most played, it ended up being Redain.
Well, I would say really the one that's played the most is probably Valky, but I
think it's close because
really?
The decks that play Valky only play one, and the decks that play Redain.
Okay, the amount of sure,
like the number of copies in a tournament.
For sure, yeah. Redain will be there more. Redain is great. I've been playing a lot more with that card, and it's just like one of those weird cards that like ends up helping in weird situations that like throws people off and is like makes it really awkward.
Yeah, it's just so much better than it looks. I mean, even was it the League Weekend? I think it was one of the League Weekends. People make fun of, his friends make fun of him for this, but Brad Nelson cast Ultimatum into a Redain because he had the 9 mana to pay 2 extra.
Yeah.
But the cards he got to cast off the Ultimatum also cost 2 extra, so he just cast nothing and just like shuffled it all back in.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's hilarious.
Or just left them in exile or whatever happens. Cause it's like he's waiting till 9 mana to play the Ultimatum through the Redain, and
then you have to get
a
bunch of creatures. That's so funny. I love that. I with that,
I'm sorry,
I
got
like,
non-creatures, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I love that. So obviously, gods that we've seen in the past are always indestructible, and we've talked about this before. But I love the flavor of them not having any sort of really recursive ability. They're kind of just, if they get killed, they get killed, and that's what it's like in this world. And I think it rings true with the flavor, and that was a really great decision.
Yeah, and a great use of the two-sided, the modal DFCs, where one side was like out of some sort of object or creature that they're most known for, and the other side is them themselves.
Exactly. It's like, oh, this is their sword, this is their boat, this is their raven, or whatever. Really like that quite a bit.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see if more of them can kind of crack in as we introduce new cards, if that makes any of them kind of enter the metagame.
Yeah. Burgee.
But none of them were busted, and some of them were good. They were all fun.
They were all fun. You are right. But as far as the snow mechanic, how did you feel with that?
Yeah, I like it. So I kind of have an issue with snow as a mechanic overall, in the sense that it isn't really anything. Like, you're just deciding this stuff is snow. It's kind of weird to me to call that a mechanic, but it is. But it's just like, we're just going to call this snow. It's like a super type kind of thing. And so all you can do with that really is that something cares about having snow stuff.
Yeah.
And so the way they've decided to pull this off is to make it basic lands, right? You have the snow lands. But what that means is that the mechanic is really, it can either be way too good because it's so difficult to interact with, because all of your lands are giving you, like, your lands are your enablers, and they don't like to print land destruction. So they either make it too good, or they have to make it weak because it's just so hard to interact with. Or they print good land destruction, but they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So it means they have to kind of thread the needle on making it interesting because people like it, but also making it kind of weak. Like, it can't be a dominant mechanic because otherwise people, like, it shouldn't be true that a snow island is better than an island.
Yeah.
And I think they did a pretty good job of that. They only really gave us like 1 or 2 constructed cards. And the one they gave us, Faceless Haven, being the main one, you get really punished for playing any lands that are not snow. Like, it makes the card a lot worse for each non-snow land you put. So now when you're building a mono red deck, you kind of have to decide how many Castle Embereths are supposed to go in my deck, because I want to be able to turn on Faceless Haven for sure, but Castle Embereth, every Castle Embereth I draw means it's that much harder to turn on Faceless Haven, but Castle Embereth is good. So having that be the best snow card and having it come on the back of like having all these castles and incentives to play double colors, like pathways are really strong and stuff like that. I think to make snow kind of push you towards monocolored was a really smart way to do it. And in particular, fight with the other monocolored incentives that were already there.
Yeah, that is really interesting. My biggest thing coming into this was worrying about if the snow might be too overpowered because of the land thing. And the last set we were just at was a bunch of lands matter stuff, which wasn't even close to a problem even a little bit, which was wonderful.
Yeah, and they threw in one safety valve with Redain as a kind of hates on snow lands kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was at the perfect power level for a hate card for it. It kind of slows them down a bit.
But the best part about that card is the second ability. Well, it's a 2/3 flyer for 3, and then the second ability on that card is the one you are more interested in, because in that deck, making them, they can't curve into their Extinction Event or their Shadow's Verdict on time is big for that one.
Oh, against Sultai, yeah.
Against Sultai or any kind of sweepers that are going to be like the 4 mana or more destruction stuff, like Doomscar, anything that's going to blow up your whole board, it takes them like 2 more turns to get out, which is huge.
Yeah,
you can
even against like mono red, it gives you a bit of Embercleave protection. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm really happy with the way Snow came out. I still just don't love it that much as a mechanic because I don't really think I don't know. It just feels weird to me. Let's just slap this thing on
whatever
on some cards and call it a day.
I get that. I think it was great that they added the kind of white frosted border. I thought that was really great, especially when we're drafting. You can easily see which ones are snow and which ones aren't. Which was, I mean, one of the reasons they did it. But I liked that border quite a bit. I thought that was a good choice.
Yeah, but if you're going to do snow, which they of course were in a Viking set, because people love snow, I thought this was a good execution of it. Like, most of the cards are really aimed at limited, and then there's a couple of cards that they really did push for constructed, but it's not, they're not making it free, because that's kind of the problem with snow in the past is, well, just change all your mountains to snow mountains and throw this card in. And
exactly. Yeah. So I thought that was great. As far as the other mechanics go in the set, I thought that they kind of were what I expected. Boast was very much like a limited mechanic. Besides a couple cards in constructed, it was really just like the one in the white deck that makes 1/1s. But besides that,
yeah, and that even kind of fell out of favor.
Yeah, you mainly just play it because it's a 2/1 for 1. Like it's just like a Savannah Lion, and you might sometimes use the other ability, but for the most part, you're not boasting. You don't care about that.
And it's okay against Wraths because you don't want to commit anything else to the board. You're like, whatever, I'll just make a 1/1.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, when I was writing the show notes, I wrote, let's talk about snow, let's talk about Foretell. And then I was sitting here and I was like, there was another mechanic in this set, right? I literally just couldn't remember what it was. So that's why there's nothing that I wrote down about Boast, because I couldn't actually remember
what it was. I couldn't
remember what the other mechanic was.
I've played with it like a good amount, but I was expecting this is like the limited mechanic. Foretell is going to be like the constructed mechanic, just the way that they play out. It's one of those. The Boast mechanics, none of them were super busted or anything. They're just, most of the time when you're playing, it really just playing another card from your hand is usually just going to be better.
Yeah, the Boast cards weren't very pushed for constructed.
Yeah, which is also hard because like you have to be attacking, and getting a Boast card later in a game is just like, oh well, I'm down now. I can't attack really, and so I attack into something, lose my creature, make a something. Not super great.
Yeah, I think Boast plays well and makes a great limited mechanic.
Absolutely, I think they definitely hit it with that, and it made it feel very Viking-y. I guess I forgot until this moment that it's supposed to be like, oh, I'm talking about my heroic battles, and I'm boasting.
Yeah. I just attacked in, and now I'm gonna tell you about it.
Yeah, I just attacked in, and then I made a 1/1.
Yeah, Zach is flexing right now.
Yeah, fuck around and find out or whatever.
To me, it kind of felt a bit like, I think in the end I prefer Raid, which is a very similar mechanic.
Yeah.
But this one is definitely more flavorful to Kaldheim.
Yeah. But, like, the reason I like Raid is because a lot of the triggers are they're not mana abilities. It's like, oh, I play my creature after combat, it has Raid, something cool happens because I attacked. Sick. And you can attack with whatever you want.
Well, one of the things I like the best about Raid, I'm getting a little off topic, but with Raid, it's like, when my opponent attacks me, I'm like, do they have a pump spell? Do they have, like, what do they, oh, they could just have a Raid creature, and that's the only reason they're doing this. Like, it changes the calculus on what I'm expecting after blocks.
Yeah.
Whereas Boast is like, he's attacking with this because he wants to activate that ability that I can see right now face up.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it doesn't have that same play to it where, as the blocker, it makes me second guess.
Yeah.
It makes me run. I always run head first into pump spells in sets with Raid because I'm like, he's just trying to get a Raid creature down. It's like, nah, he had Sure Strike and you just threw away your huge block.
Or they had both. Your opponent had either one and decided which one to use,
and
which is always
happy
great.
Whichever way.
Yeah, I don't really care. Which you can totally play your Boast creatures like that. Be like, all right, attack in. If they block, I'll do this thing. If they don't block, I'll do this other thing. Kind of. And I like mechanics.
Yeah, I
like
guess
that.
it does mask pump spells the same way, where it's like, I'm just attacking for the boast, man. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Let me boast a little bit, bro. I just want to make a 2-1 or 1-1 or whatever.
That's true. But Foretell was a great mechanic. You said it was a constructed mechanic. I actually thought it was great in Limited too.
Oh, no. I mean, like, it's great and limited. I just, reading the card, I could tell this is the one that's going to make it to constructed. We're going to see...
right.
We're going to see more
some of the cards are going to be in constructed.
We're going to see a lot more Foretell cards in constructed than they will see Boast cards. Or even Snow, to that.
Right. Any mechanic that's like, we're going to let you spend your mana more efficiently. It's like, that's the one that's going to be pushed for constructed. And
so
the one that's like, we're going to make you make dumb attacks. And it's like, that's not pushed for constructed.
But no, I thought Foretell was like fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't play with it very often, but I like it. I think it's really interesting.
I thought it was great. Like in Limited, so many times I'd keep a hand that's just like 2 lands and the Sarulf's Packmate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm just going to cast this on turn 3, try to hit my 3rd land, and it would happen often. Or the Raven too. It's like, I'm totally fine with just playing a 3/3 flyer on turn 3. Basically, turn 2 and turn 3. It was interesting whether you wanted to play it. I think people didn't give that enough credit. They were like, oh, you just always foretell it. But sometimes if you just had the mana, foresaw it coming, and you weren't going to cast anything else that turn, you shouldn't foretell it because
they'll see it coming.
Then you're telling your opponent. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or like the amount of times you see like, oh, well, now I'm going to play around Demon Bolt because I know that they foretold that with red up. So, all right, I'm going to play around that for the whole game. However, it's a really hard mechanic for me, I think, because playing against it, I'm really great at... This might be going into Limited a little bit now, but I'm really great
let's make that transition.
Yeah. So
segue.
In Limited, I'm super great at playing aggressive... Super great at... I like playing aggressive decks. And
better at. Let's go with better.
Yeah. But I enjoy playing them, and so I usually draft them. And... it's like turn 1, I played a 1/1 or something. Turn 2, I have something, and on their turn 2, they foretell a card. I'm like, sweet, they didn't do anything. In my mind, they did nothing. I swing out, do something crazy.
They just passed the turn.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, cool. And I would immediately forget about whatever that card was. Like, I don't care. You spent 2 mana to do nothing, so that doesn't matter to me. And then I would usually get hurt by it in some way or another. Not trying to figure out what the card was. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's one of those foretell cards. I don't know.
Yeah, I read an article about Kaldheim Limited, and I think it was Max Mick that wrote this, but he just described it in a really sort of great way. Basically exactly what you're describing, that foretell is a tempo mechanic. It's just that the tempo only gets realized when you cast the spell, not when you foretell it. So, like, when you foretell it, you're preparing for a tempo play later.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a tempo mechanic that just it works a little differently, because most tempo is like you get your tempo right away. I unsummon your thing. All right, now I attack. That's all my card did. I got it. Whereas this is like, oh, because I foretold this, in 2 turns I'm going to get to cast 2 spells and really pull ahead.
Yeah. Which was the
so
interesting...
I thought it was really interesting.
Well, it was also the interesting thing with, you know, a lot of people were saying in Limited, like the black-white strategy just didn't really come together, which is the double spell. You know, that's, you know, you're getting rewarded for all that stuff. But like a lot of the best foretell cards were not in those colors. And so if you're thinking like Sarulf's Packmate and Behold the Multiverse are like the big ones that everyone loved, and those are not white or black. And the color pair that wanted you to play multiple spells that could really be helped by these foretell things were not those colors. So I don't know if that was something that was introduced in. Maybe, you know, if you tried to mix up some of your colors together. I also think, you know, people didn't like playing black very much because it went extremely strong. But I didn't stop me from playing it all the time and getting my ass kicked.
But you know what? I wouldn't have guessed that from looking at the spoilers, because black had so many like so many commons or whatever that you would consider in almost any other set to be the best common in the set.
Yeah.
You know, like Feed the Serpent or whatever.
That's amazing.
Like in almost every set, that's the de facto best common, and in this it wasn't even top 5, you know?
No.
Although Sarulf's Packmate is pretty great. That's that's a common I wouldn't mind playing with again.
Yeah, so it will be one of the cards that you come back to this format, you're going to play Limited, and then you're telling your friends who maybe didn't play it or something, you have a box, like, all right, so, you know, Sarulf's Packmate, everyone knows that that's the great common or something. Or maybe you keep it a secret and you're just like...
That card sucks.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah,
no.
It was way worse than it looked.
Yeah,
I'll take that. I'll take that.
All of them to my deck.
I remember my first draft, I got like 5 of them. And I was like, do people not know that this card is ridiculous for a common? Or am I just missing something? Like, I don't know. Let's find out. And I got to 7 wins purely on the back of just
it's one of those...
playing 3/3s and drawing a card every turn.
It's one of those weird things where... So this was talked in like so the Lindworm, right? The 6/6 for 6 that gains you 4
I did have a couple of those too.
Right? So that card was really good in this set, but we've seen that card exactly in other sets and it was not good in that set. And it's one of those weird like draft things where like I've seen this card before and I didn't think it was great. It's probably not good. That's a bad, and you kind of label it as that's a bad card, you know? And you don't really think about, well, you know, this set is completely different than the other Limited format that you were playing in, all those kinds of things. And maybe originally a lot of drafters are looking at Sarulf's Packmate and thinking back to the elf from Zendikar that was a 3/2 that drew you a card. That was 4 mana. That was like good, but like not amazing. It was
okay.
Because obviously you can't play it on turn 3 like you can Sarulf's Packmate. Yeah. And also that extra...
3/3 is also a lot
better than a 3/2. But... it's just one of those weird things where like you kind of see like a 4 mana 3-powered thing that draws you a card and you're like, oh, that's the same as the Sarulf's Packmate.
Right, with, in this case, irrelevant creature types, which that one
had relevant. So it's just kind of one of those things that you can quickly write something off that ends up, you know, that's actually a really good card from the set.
Yeah, I mean, this set was particularly complex. Like, I didn't draft it that much, but that's all that everyone was talking about was how you earn most of your money in the actual draft because there's so much going on and it's hard to see all the interactions that by studying the draft portion really well and knowing, oh, this card is not what I should take in this spot. This card is better than it looks. This card is worse than it looks. That's where you got a lot of mileage, which I think is cool because a lot of the time it's like, you know, if you haven't played the set that much, you still just are a good drafter. If you're a really good player, you're probably going to be able to get yourself your 6 or 7 wins fairly consistently.
Yeah.
Whereas this one is like, no, I need you to draft me a lot and know how to draft me.
Yeah.
I don't tend to love sets like that because I like, you know, I'm a core set draft guy. I love to just let's all have a bunch of 2/3s and see who wins.
Yeah.
But I know that a lot of people really appreciated that, and so I think it's really cool for them to mix it up and have a format that's really all about like earning your money in the draft portion.
I mean, like it seemed pretty like, yes, it was extremely complicated. And I felt very lost most of the time. And I drafted it quite a bit, grasping at certain things. And every once in a while you have something that comes together perfectly and you're like, oh yeah, I totally got it. Or other times where you're like, I thought I was picking all the good ones, and like now I have this kind of shambles of a deck that I should have, I was going too hard in some directions, which, a lot of people, everyone has drafts where you're like, this is what I want to draft. You go into the draft and you try to draft it and it just didn't come together. And you were like, well, you saw many signals to be like, hey, jump out of that. But I was like, no, I'm sticking with this. Because I'm a good drafter and I know that I need to be this. And then you end up getting screwed. So,
meanwhile, Ben Stark is shaking his head.
Yeah. So I definitely think that I liked this set, and I did enjoy drafting it. I was a little sad that it seemed like there were so many different archetypes that you could do. There was like 10 different archetypes, not including the like other colors that weren't even necessarily that creature type or whatever. Because you had like all the 2 color pairs kind of had a creature type thing, and also had something else going on, and there was just so many things.
Lot going on.
There's a lot going on that it was really difficult to try to. I never felt like I drafted an elf deck or something. I never drafted like a giants deck. It never really felt like those things came together because I thought that there was so much other stuff going on that most of the time, you might have a changeling or something that gets your squash to be cheaper or whatever, but it didn't feel like a giants deck, or it didn't feel like I went into that category, which was a really cool thing, but also a really confusing thing at the same time.
Right. It's different take on tribal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like little pockets of tribal synergies rather than your deck is this tribal.
Exactly. So a lot of times it'd be like, oh, wait, I can actually flash back my glimpse of the cosmos because I have this changeling on the board that I didn't even think I'd be able to, or whatever. That kind of stuff was really cool. When it comes together, it's fun. But most of the time,
that stuff tended to happen against me more than for me. And I'd be like, damn, that was cool what my opponent just did to me.
Why didn't I do that? But most of the time, it really felt like I was either playing aggro or I was playing snow. And I think that was, I'm assuming most of it is just me being not the best drafter and kind of like just putting blinders on and being like, I'm doing this or doing this just to make it easy on myself.
That's how the sealed format was, though. So that means there is kind of a power level discrepancy in those directions. Draft is supposed to be a bit self-balancing, but it's never going to be perfect. So
exactly,
those are kind of the stronger archetypes in Kaldheim, was to either be the snow control deck or the aggro deck.
Yeah. Which, most of the time I played a lot of red-white, so I was doing the aggro thing.
I was the most successful with aggro. Mm-hmm. Just the red cards. Some of the red cards really hit hard. The 3/2 that would like boast to draw you a card was sick.
Yeah. Or it's always just fun getting fucking people over who are super greedy. It's like, wow, how many colors are you playing? Die. Until they.
I was just gonna say the last thing I wanted to say about limited was that because again I didn't play it all that much. I never really got into it, but there was nothing I could pinpoint and say I disliked about it. It was just I think I was just really enjoying Constructed. But I love it when our equipment is good in a limited format. Because usually it's kind of bad, and I think that should be the default, is that in most sets equipment is pretty bad. But I love it when they make a set that kind of surprises you and you just keep losing to gold vein pick or whatever.
Yeah, gold vein pick.
Okay. And then it starts to just move higher and higher up your pick order, and you're like, you know what? This card's just great.
Yeah.
I like when they do that.
Yeah, I definitely agree, especially from someone who likes equipment, because it's inherently just going to be... Anytime I can get like card disadvantage, I love it. I'm really into it. But
you're going to love Faithless Looting then, right? Because that's card disadvantage.
Yeah. No, that says draw a card on it. I want a card that says, hey, put this on your creature, and then it'll do a thing. But if one card kills that creature, you lose both. That's what I prefer to play.
I want a card that says, play this and cross your fingers that your opponent doesn't have one of these 18 ways to really screw you.
Yeah, that's what Magic is, right? You just like play cards and cross your fingers that your opponent doesn't have what you hope they don't have. That's how I play. I don't know. It seems to work.
Works 50% of the time, every time.
Hey. But kind of moving into Constructed, like we had already talked about Faceless Haven, which was like one of the biggest cards to hit Constructed, because that kind of made mono white viable and mono red viable, which was awesome. I mean, I liked going from the most aggro decks being like fairly mid range into this. Well, we have some hyper aggressive decks, and now we have like standard right now feels super polarizing. Where like either you start the match and you know like, okay, this matchup's pretty good for me, or it's like this is the bad matchup and I'm going to go uphill every second of this game.
Definitely, and that's a big difference between Zendikar Rising Standard, which had less deck diversity, right? Like you were saying, the range of decks you could play. You know, the aggro deck was Gruul Adventures, which we currently in this metagame consider to be like fast mid range. You know, so it was a far cry from mono red, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And then what's the most? I guess there was Dimir control, so there was a true control deck, but you know everything was just shifted up, and it felt like every game, every matchup was, if you were favored, it was like 55-45 at best. Whereas now it's like if I'm playing, for some reason I'm holding dear to my Rakdos Sacrifice, and I come across Sultimatum, that honestly feels like an 80-20 matchup or worse, for my opponent. So it's just like. And then again, like mono white, there's a few decks that it basically just cannot beat.
Yeah.
Mono red is going to have a really easy time with something like Dimir Rogues, but a pretty hard time with a lot of the decks that started popping up to kind of punch mono red down, like some of those Naya Fury decks that would just kill it before it really did its thing.
Yeah, or anything that's just so big that it can't deal with, but it has like presence on the board. It's been really fun. I liked the shakeups that happened. Obviously we're going to be changing quite soon. But I did like it. I mean, there was a few cards that kind of came into play. Sultimatum popped up because now we had a extra turn spell with Alrund's Epiphany, so that was really big. Kind of being the de facto.
It's even more than that because when the deck first started, do you remember that they used to get every time they would get Alrund's Epiphany, Valky, and Vorinclex.
Yeah, I guess those are all.
Like all three of those are Kaldheim cards.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it did feel like
then they started working in Kiora Best to See God.
Yeah.
I mean, still most of what they go to get is Kaldheim.
That is very true. Where it's like either I'm going to take an extra turn, I'm going to do these other things. I do think the take an extra turn is a big one, just because it kind of becomes the de facto. You can't pick this one. It's like
the deck doesn't work without it.
Exactly. If it was just like. Vorinclex, Tibble, or Valky, and Kiora Best to See God, you can kind of pick whichever one might, save you or whatever. It's not going to be the worst. But whenever you're going to give them an extra turn, it just really doesn't seem like you can ever do that.
Although I have had to do it. Sometimes I'm like, well, I can't give you Vorinclex and Kiora Best to See God, so I ship the Vorinclex or whatever.
Yeah. Or
sorry, I should probably ship Kiora Best to See God.
Yeah.
I agree to take 12 off your Vorinclex, and let's see if we can win from here.
Yeah.
And that deck also relies really heavily on binding the old gods. Not to mention the green-black and green-blue pathways that it probably plays like 7 or 8 copies of.
That's very big.
So this just would not be a deck without Kaldheim.
Yeah, so really that is the biggest one. Originally I was thinking it didn't have that much, but yeah, you're right. The lands are huge. And getting a better 4-mana removal spell that also ramps you. Great.
Yeah, Mono White and Sultimatum are just not decks without Kaldheim cards. And then even Goldspan Dragon kind of spawned some new stuff all on its own.
And getting into
Naya Fury obviously is a Showdown of the Scalds Goldspan Dragon deck. So, there are various takes. Like it caused the Gruul Adventures deck to morph, to kind of spread out into like 5 different decks, 4 or 5 different decks.
Yay, which is super confusing for meta stuff. Hooray! It's like
like there's Teamer, which is like, let's take Gruul and slam in Alrund's Epiphany, and like saw it coming, and Goldspan Dragon. There's Naya, which is like, let's slam Showdown of the Scalds in that bitch, and there's so many different adventures.
Yeah.
There's so many ways to use the adventures package, whereas previously it was like, well, just Gruul aggro's the best way to use
exactly.
this. I really like when this is when a set has a big impact on standard, but it's not a big impact in the way that like Throne of Eldraine was, where it's like all of my cards are so good that I demand all the new decks be built around my stuff. Like there's no card in Kaldheim that is the de facto best card in standard. Like there's no Omnath, there's no Uro, there's no Yorion even from Ikoria.
Yeah.
There's no card that's just like, I am the card that demands, to be played. The closest is kind of Goldspan Dragon. Maybe you could give it to Ulrun's Epiphany, because they spawned new archetypes, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like, I don't think anyone would say that Ulrun's Epiphany is the best card in Standard. Maybe it's top 5, I don't know. But I don't know. It's probably, if it were in Throne of Eldraine, would it even be the best card in the set?
Yeah.
After all the bannings.
Exactly. Moving on, obviously, okay, so going through Constructed Limited, awesome, but the best thing that came from Kaldheim, hands down, is the lore, man. The lore is awesome.
It was very cool, yeah. I agree. That's where this set totally stuck out.
It really shined. And that's the thing that I'm going to remember the most, is like all the different, just the world that was built, like how they could fit so many stories into one set using 20 sagas was crazy. Being like, hey, so here's all these different characters. There's 10 different worlds, essentially, with another one that they're kind of floating in, with different monsters flying around and gods from all these different places. All these things are happening. And here's, 2 stories from each realm, basically, on all the cards. It was packed, like jam-packed.
Yeah, and they were like, we're going to have 10 tribes.
Yeah.
And that's not even including the Vikings, who are going to be split into 5 clans.
On one realm. Like, it was a lot. Almost to the point where I could have had 2 sets of this and been like, so...
This would have made a great block. Man, if we were still in the block days...
Yeah. If this came out right after...
Block, or even 3-set block, like, there's enough here.
Yeah. If this came out like right after Ixalan or something, and we're like, all right, now we're going to this 2-block Kaldheim set, or, if this was like a 3-block set, obviously the second one or the third one would be like the Doomscar or something, and that's a whole set about everything crashing together.
No, it would be the Eldrazi invasion of Kaldheim. Come on.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I feel like because people have been asking for a Nordic-themed set for so long, like a Norse mythology set, they felt like they had to get everything into it that people wanted. People wanted frost giants, people wanted Vikings, people wanted the Norse gods.
And Valkyries.
People wanted... Yeah, exactly, Valkyries. So they decided, let's just do it all, and people will love it, and then we can justify coming back and spending some time focusing on a certain faction or a certain...
Exactly. Now that Asika is dead. Ooh. Spoiler.
Spoilers.
If you didn't read the story. Maybe what happens if the world tree starts to die or something? Who knows? We can come back here. Right,
because that could happen.
What happens when the... What are they called? Fuck, I should remember. I should have written any of this down. But the Aenir, what is the old elf gods? What happens when they get freed from the trees and they come out and they attack the Skoti, right?
Oh yeah, like if we came back and it was like the elves of Kaldheim or something, and it was a more elf-centric and the elven gods and Kaldheim Return of the Aenir or
something.
Whatever.
Yeah,
that's a set I would be psyched for.
So there is a lot going on here. And not enough time to grasp it in 11 weeks. That is for sure. So I just, really love the build up to it. It really delivered, and leaving it feeling a little like we left it a little too soon.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm excited to come back.
I don't think I've been...
Even though just like overall this wasn't one of my favorite sets of all time. Just the lore is so rich that I just want to come back.
Yeah, I don't think I've been... Like any of the other planes that we visited, or, we're going back to a place or whatever, I haven't been more excited than this one to be like, I can't wait till we come back to this one that we just had. Like, I don't think I've ever felt that way. Yeah. It's always been like, when can we leave this place? I'm so tired of whatever,
It'll be like when they first, returned to Ravnica.
Exactly.
Was like,
shit, this was forever. And now it's like, okay, are we going back to Ravnica again?
Yeah.
Fuck, can we do something else? Is this just like Magic the Ravnica or something?
That's obviously going to be the stage for the great Phyrexia versus Eldrazi battle.
Yes, of course. Jeff, I will say, I know we wanted to get to some stories about some of our Kaldheim things. However, I can't tell a story without a beer, and I'm out of beer.
Same.
All right.
So let's take a beer break.
Let's go to a beer break. All right, now I'm twice as mad as I was before. Now that I'm going to drink this Mad Tom. One of the types of whatever.
I'm curious about this one because I don't like creamsicles, so. But I do like ales.
Do you like sick ales? Cream sick ales?
I like sick ales.
Yo, this ale's sick. All right, let's get into. We did promise stories, didn't we?
Yeah, we gotta tell at least a story from
All right.
our experiences with Kaldheim.
So I do have one that I alluded to earlier, but this is one. I was playing Sealed. I played a lot of Sealed of this, and this was one of my aggressive starts. So on turn 3, I had an Axe Guard Cavalry out, and I only had 2 lands, and I missed my 3rd land drop, which was like really frustrating. So I played Magda, and then I tapped the Cavalry to give Magda haste, and then when I attacked, I got a treasure from Magda and a treasure from tapping the Axe Guard Cavalry, and then I got to play the Dragonkin Berserker, which is the one like sacking all my treasures. So I just keep my 2 lands instead of ramping. I have 3 creatures on the board. I feel great.
3 2-drops.
Felt awesome. I was like, wow, what a sweet curve. And I got a nice from my opponent. And they're like, that's awesome. Though this is one of those situations where they just, on their turn 2, they foretold something. And I was like, whatever, that's nothing. And then on their turn, they just untap and they do, what's the card? Crush the Weak. They just crush the weak, kill my whole board. I'm stuck with 2 lands.
I was thinking Doomscar the way this was going.
No. The one that was much easier to cast. They're like, all right, crush the weak, deal 2 damage to everything, all your stuff dies. You can't play the 3 drops in your hand because you don't have another land, and you're fucked. And I was like, oh, and I just said, good game. You killed both of my rares.
Did you give him the angry Zendikar?
Oh, you bet I did. Are you kidding? It was, that was a rough one. But that was enough to be like, wow, I got so blown out on what I thought was going to be an amazing start. And I was just being way too
that
aggressive.
is a really strong start.
Yeah.
It takes pretty much that uncommon or Doomscar to really punish you.
And I got punished pretty bad.
Tough luck.
Yeah. It was rough.
That's fun, though. I mean, sometimes when that happens, you just got to be like, well, I don't think it was wrong to play those things, based on you not having a 3rd land.
I think it was probably wrong I should have just kept the treasures that I got and played it safe and not played my other 2 too. And been like, okay,
I don't know about that.
If you wipe my board, then I can play a 4-drop next turn.
Nah, there's so few ways for them to do it, though. It basically had to be that card, from the sounds of it.
Yeah.
I would have done the same thing.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah. Although, I don't know, that doesn't necessarily mean it's correct. That probably means it's definitely wrong, actually.
In either case, it still makes me feel better that I'm not the only person that would make that mistake.
My story, I don't know if it's so much of a story, but it's just like a fond memory looking back. And this was in Standard, near the start of the format. And actually, this was when I was streaming, and I streamed this, so you were there. Mm-hmm. But we were trying to do the Infinity Crown.
Yes.
From the Kaldheim bingo episode that we did. And so that's get the all 5 runes on the runed crown. And so I built this deck that was a Yorion deck, and it had the rune dwarf that goes to get a rune. It had the runed crowns, and it had a bunch of runes. And the idea was you're just going to play runes on random stuff and then blink them all with Yorion, and then they all come back in and attach to the crown. And that would be how we did it. And I think it was the last match of the night, and we actually succeeded. But it was funny because at one point, I had 3 runes on the crown, and I was worried that my opponent was just going to concede because we were so far ahead. We had 2 or 3 creatures, this awesome crown that was already giving it +1/+1 and haste and trample or whatever, and we had more cards in hand than them. So I just didn't play anything. I was not attacking. I think I was only attacking with one thing to try to get them to not concede before I got all 5 runes on it. But then they went Binding the Old Gods, Yorion, Flicker my Binding the Old Gods, just started blowing everything up, and then it looked like I was actually going to lose because I didn't put pedal to the metal, but eventually managed to assemble the crown with all 5 runes on it and win the game with the rune dwarf equipping that crown and attacking.
Flying over. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely like one of
something I'll always remember.
my favorite stories from that. And the best thing to come out of that Kaldheim bingo thing we did.
I think so. Yeah, I thought that one was going to be impossible, but actually, it's one of the only ones I managed to accomplish. So.
Yeah. But moving on from Kaldheim, we have a Strixhaven League Weekend coming up this weekend.
So is that moving on from Kaldheim though? Like,
it's funny because there's no Strixhaven cards in the Strixhaven League Weekend. Pretty great.
Yeah. We complained about this with the first Kaldheim League Weekend. So
same.
At least they're consistent.
I guess so. I don't know if that was a weird like, oh, we have to push the sets release because of stuff. I don't really know.
When they're doing it twice, it feels intentional. And I think maybe the idea is like, oh, it'll be fun to watch the pros with a totally solved format, see what they can do with it, and, you know, just see the best players playing the best decks. But I think that's an okay idea in principle, but it's so bad in practice.
Yeah.
Because, like, who wants that? The players don't really want that. You're presumably aiming it towards the viewers who are not pro players, but who are competitive-minded. They would enjoy something like that. And that's me. And I don't want that. I want Strixhaven new cards. Let's see what they do with the brand new set. You know. Like,
well, I also don't understand why don't they just call it Kaldheim League Weekend number 3 or number 2? Just because they should have.
It should be number 2 because the first Kaldheim League Weekend had no Kaldheim cards.
Yeah. So anyway, griping aside, we have this event coming up. As always, it's the MPL and Rivals players. You can follow along on Twitch. With all that stuff, and follow Ball Lightning on Twitter, who has the best breakdown of everything that's happening and all the current points and positions and things much faster than Wizards will.
Seriously, it's better than Magic Esports to follow if you want updates on standings.
It absolutely is. So going into this is kind of like the new... We have now shifted from the kind of regular season to the playoffs-ish. It's kind of the playoffs... the gauntlets almost feel more like the playoffs because they're really going. That's when you officially land somewhere. When you go into those the gauntlet tournaments.
See, I think of this as the playoffs because to me, playoffs is like all that relegation stuff or whatever that happens in regular season. The playoffs is like, all right, we're going to start eliminating the people who are not ready, and we're going to choose a winner, and we're going to seed by standings. I know Wizards calls the gauntlets the postseason because it's literally after the season. But the gauntlets don't really feel like playoffs to me because it's people fighting for a spot in the league. It's not fighting for who won the league, you know?
In any case, this one will be different than the last ones that we have seen as far as who is playing and why things are playing. So, Jeff, do you want to explain the tournament, the League Weekend, how it's going to work out?
Sure, yeah. So in the past... League weekends were always just one format. You would play 12 or 11 matches. And basically over 2 league weekends, you would play each one of your opponents one time. So it's just kind of like you just play everyone. Now you're being paired. So it's power pairings. So in round 1, you'll play whoever's closest to you. So 1 will play 2, 3 will play 4, 5 will play 6. So Paulo and Gab are in round 1, you know. But also... the top 8 of the MPL, the middle 8, and the bottom 8 are all in their own little pools, and they're going to play like a mini tournament amongst those 8 people. And so, you know, 8 is the perfect number for 3 rounds of Swiss. So they'll do a 3-round Swiss tournament in Standard. Once they've done that, remember that each win is still 1 match win, so 1 league point. Now there will be new standings. And they'll do it again. Okay, now you're power paired by standing. Top 8, middle 8, bottom 8, all play in their own mini tournament. This time it'll be 3 rounds of Historic. And so over the course of Saturday and Sunday, they'll do this 4 times. Standard, Historic, Standard, Historic. So in total, 12 matches each. 3 matches for each mini tournament. And that's how it's going to work. Yeah. And then the Rivals will have the same thing. The numbers will be a little different, though, right? Because MPL's a little cleaner with 24 members splitting into 3 pods of 8, but...
Rivals is 46 because 2 members have kind of moved away.
Right, so it's not a perfect pods of 8 scenario, but anyways, it's the same idea.
Same idea. So as always, we have our fantasy sports league. At the moment, I am down. I have two wins, and you have 3 wins. And and the winner gets a weird 2-4, which is a 24 pack of different types of beer. Is essentially what it is.
Yeah. Curated. I like to call it a curated.
Oh, yes.
20 pack of 24 beers.
And to me, it's just like the random ones you find on the ground. Maybe somebody dropped it while they were coming home. You just pick it up. Just whatever the.
You're
fuck
just saying
find.
that so I'll throw the next few events.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't have to drink your Subway beer.
Yeah, I got a pretty. I already have something kind of brewing. It's pretty bad. It's pretty terrible right now. So you should probably just lose.
Yeah.
Our teams are always made up of 3 MPL players and 4 Rivals players, and then we pick the highest meta percentage for both formats and the top performing deck as well. However, this time we are keeping the players that we had drafted for the championship, the Kaldheim championship, because they are so close together. We didn't feel like we wanted to draft new teams. Also, my team was just so good last time. I might as well just keep them, right?
Yeah.
Oh, which is good.
I don't think Stanislav Sivko will have 2 bad weekends in a row.
We'll see. We will see. Just running through my team for the MPL, I have Gabriel Nassif, Seth Manfield, and Autumn Burchett. And then for the Rivals, I have Ely Cassis, LSV, Luca Magni, and Zachary Keeney.
Yeah, for my team, the MPL members are Paolo Vito Damarosa, or Paula Vito, or Paolo Vitor. Yeah. Paolo Vitor Damarosa.
Okay, Mark Rosewater.
Brad Nelson and Reed Duke. And then my Rivals players are Matt Sperling, Stanislav Sivka, Chris Patello, and Mike Sigrist.
Nice.
I'm feeling confident about these players.
I feel great about my team as well. So, we'll just have to see how it shakes out, because I do not know what's going on. This one, as far as meta goes, really feels like super, super meta. Where it's like, hey.
Yeah, exactly.
So we played this kind of already, and then we had a tournament, and now it feels like everyone kind of knows what the best deck is, but then everyone doesn't either wants to play that or doesn't want to play it, or is trying to play the deck that beats the deck that beats the best deck. It's crazy. I have no idea what's going on. I don't think any of the players do either. They all seem very just kind of frantic, being like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do here. So
right. It's going to be super weird too, because like in the past, sometimes people are like, oh, wasn't able to test that much. I just picked the best deck. But that's not going to happen here, because this is where all the stakes are. If you lose this, a lot of people are just out now. So, like some people in the Rivals League will literally just be automatically relegated if they lose this. If they don't do well this league weekend. So they have a lot more incentive to actually participate in the metagaming.
Yes, exactly. So, as far as the metagame percentage for Standard, what are we thinking?
Should I go first?
I think you should just go first. You're winning, so I'll let you go first.
I lost last week, so. Yeah, I'm just going to go with Teamer Adventures.
Okay.
So this is the deck that had the second highest win rate last time around, which I erroneously thought would have the highest win rate. Somehow some random Gruul Adventures came out of the blue and got first place.
It's pretty good.
Pretty lucky. But Teamer Adventures just did really well in the championship and had no bad matchups. That's what I think really spoke to me about it. And I think the pro players will take note of that. And exactly like you're saying, people want to play the deck that's good against the deck that is good. But if it has no bad matchups, what are you going to do?
Yeah. I had the same feeling about this deck, where I do think most people are going to take Teamer Adventures, where their thinking is, this is the best deck. Let's play the deck that's going to beat the best deck. And then, everyone's going to try to play the deck that beats the best deck, so I'm going to play the best deck. Because then everyone's going to go through the same loop of thinking that they are going down this rabbit hole. I think we will come around to, this is the deck everyone's going to bring, as Teamer Adventures as well. I don't think we're going to see very much Sultai. Would be interesting if we saw some rogues, but
I'd be surprised, because I won't say it's 0% that nobody's going to bring it, but mono red's gotten a lot more popular.
So the one thing is, I don't know if people will play mono red because of how terrible it did the last time around. It would be so awesome if it ended up being like the top performing deck, mono red, where it's like, okay, this was a terrible deck the last time everybody brought it. And now this time, because the meta is different, it is the best. I think.
Oh, well, last time people were just so prepared for it because it was public enemy number one.
Yeah. So now mono red's one of the ones I'm thinking about most, where it's like, well, it can beat this Teamer Adventures deck, or it hits so hard and it can hit these other decks as well. I think it might have a chance, but at the same time, it feels so risky because I don't know if enough people are going to bring it to actually try.
Tough call. So you picked Teamer Adventures as well.
I did. Yeah.
Top percentage.
Yeah. For top percentage, I definitely think Teamer Adventures is going to be the one that most people bring.
All right, let's do a zigzag then. You got to pick your top performance first.
I know. So I'm here. I'm thinking. I also have a weird feeling that Rogues is going to show up strong as far as like win percentage. You know what? I'm going to go mono red. I'm just going to go on a limb. I'm going to go out there.
Good choice. I was considering that one as well. But you're going to be really excited to hear what I'm picking. Because I'm giving myself the kiss of death.
Oh my god, are you serious?
I'm going to choose Rakdos.
No way! There's no way! Oh my gosh, okay. You're picking Rakdos. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is my shot.
All right.
All right, so then I got to choose my meta percentage for Historic. I think there's basically two top decks here. There's Auras and Food.
Wait, did you just say Auras?
As in, like, people are going to play it. Not that it's good.
I don't know. I think it's
obviously,
I think it's one of the best
tier. And anyone who plays it should be ashamed. But, yeah, those are going to be the two most popular. I'm fairly confident on that. Because Jund had a mediocre performance last time, I wonder if that's going to push Auras to be number one. But again, it's this weird game because I think Jund is the most powerful deck. It's just that everyone was so ready for it that's why it had a mediocre performance. But then the pro players are going to know that, and are they going to do the whole leveling thing? I'm just going to say Jund Food and prepare to be wrong if it's Auras.
Yeah.
Just accept that that's a possibility.
I love Auras, obviously.
Yeah.
But I almost feel like I don't know if it's going to be the one that most people bring. I think it's such a good choice, but it's the deck that I want to bring if I think that everyone's playing Jund Food, because the Jund Food matchup is actually pretty good for Auras, in my opinion. You know what? I'm gonna go with my baby. I'm going with Auras. Silver Quill Auras. As far as top performing deck in Historic. Oh boy. So
jeez, I have no idea, man.
So this one's hard. So it's kind of like, do I want to stack, or if people think that Auras is going to be the top performing deck, then the Jund Company version of the deck is really good against it because of the Priest of Forgotten Gods is great. But because the Food version doesn't play Priest of Forgotten Gods, it makes it a lot weaker, and it takes longer it usually wins through like card advantage, but Auras can draw so many more cards. And it also has recursion. So if I think Auras is going to be the highest meta percentage, then Jund Company would beat it into the ground. But also maybe there's this weird thing where I was wrong about Auras. It actually is Jund Company, or one of the Jund decks, and the Abzan mid-range deck is the one that comes out on top.
Yeah, but people might not bring it. Like, that's the crazy thing, too, about doing the league weekends, is there's not that many participants, right? There's only 70 players. So, it's possible that nobody even brings Rakdos. That's, not that that's ever happened before. But
So, it's probably Death Shadow. That's what they're going to play. Fuck, dude.
I'm confident there's not really going to be any out of the blue decks because it's not worth it. Because, the format's going to change in a few days. Unless people were like, let's save our off-the-wall decks for this weekend. The one time, get them.
Are they going to play, Golgari Adventures or something?
Yeah, or just they've known that Death Shadow is busted the whole time and just didn't play it last time because they didn't want to reveal the information for this event, which is more important because last time you could only do 4 points.
Yeah, interesting. Did somebody break it? I have no idea. You know what? I'm gonna say. So I said the top performing, the meta percentage for historic is Silver Quill auras. So now I'm gonna say that the top performing historic deck is gonna be Orzhov auras. I'm gonna double up. Let's go.
See, I was inspired by you, and I was gonna write this for mine. Do you know what deck I'm picking?
Oh, so you're saying it's gonna be Lorehold. I don't know. What deck are you talking about?
Lorehold Cycling, baby.
Wow. Okay. Lorehold Cycling.
I believe in it. I think Javier Dominguez will run it back, and I think he's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to contribute some win percentage points.
Okay.
Yeah, he top 8'd with it. That kind of put it on the map. The deck looked really good in the games that I watched him play with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to see if it can.
Okay.
And it feels like it should be a deck that can handle Gen Food okay to me. So.
All right. That was one of the ones I was looking at for standard. So, because I really like the other version with the.
I thought about going cycling site in both formats.
Yeah.
That's my picks.
Because I
just hate the Jeskai cycling standard deck too much to.
Really? I think I like it.
Acknowledge its presence.
I like it actually quite a bit. But I also play decks that lose to it, so that their creatures die fairly easily to 3 damage every turn. Anyway, so those are our picks. For my meta percentage for standard and top performing deck, I did standard is Temur Adventures and mono red. And then for historic, I did Silver Quill Auras and then Orzhov Auras, which is, of course, the same deck.
All in on your baby.
I am.
Yeah, meta percentage, I went Temur Adventures. Top performance, Rakdos mid-range. Meta percentage in historic, Jund Food. And top performance, Lorehold Cycling.
Let's see it, okay.
See, I felt like I had such pedestrian picks for the top percentage deck that I had to go a little more exotic with my top
I like
performance.
that. I like it. So we will see how that goes this weekend, and of course tell you all about it next week, probably, maybe, we'll see. But, all right. Do we have time? Should we hear from the audience? Do we have time to talk about these Strixhaven cards, possibly? Is that a yes?
Should we talk about some Elder Dragons?
Maybe some Elder Dragons? I think so. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Someone say no if you don't want to hear that.
Anyone? No? All right. This episode is going to be kind of long because of this, so is everyone okay? All right. That's fine. All right.
Just say, shut up, you've talked too long already.
Or, just stop listening or whatever you want to do. Who cares?
No, don't do that.
Perfect. Now, as I'm looking at this first card, I do not read the first names of any of these characters. But Jeff, would you like to do the honors of starting us off in these Elder Dragons?
Let's start with Velomachus Lorehold. 5 red white, legendary creature, Elder Dragon, flying, vigilance, haste, 5/5. Whenever Velomachus Lorehold attacks, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value less than or equal to Velomachus Lorehold's power from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
Sweet.
So, yeah, you said cards in this set had a lot of text. So you drop this thing, you attack Flying Vigilance Haste for 5, and then you look at the top 7 cards, you get to play a spell with MV 5 or less.
So, I do like this because you can play the command off of it. So that's perfectly 5 and 5, the Lorehold command. I like that flavor hit really well because the first thing I was thinking was, can this dragon play the command? And of course it has to, which is great because also that means you're attacking in. If they can block and kill it, if you're casting the Lorehold command, if you hit it, you can give it +1/+0 and indestructible, and then whatever else you want to do.
That's too small ball, man.
Oh, are you kidding? I'm all about flavor small ball. My favorite cards are like
I'm gonna play like Naya Fury, but I'm gonna replace the 5-drop that makes mana to protect itself with the 7-drop that has to cast it right away.
I mean, that seems pretty fun too. Or just like, double its power or any of that stuff.
No, what I immediately thought of with this card was like Transmogrify stuff. Mm-hmm. So if you can play a tokens deck, Transmogrify into this, or Luca Copper Coat Outcast into this, and then, like you're saying, you know, hope to hit the Lorehold command. That's one way to do it, and play it in like a Jeskai, you know, the old Jeskai Luca shells, but you're trying to hit this now instead of Agent of Treachery.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the obvious thing that jumped out to me, and I see people talking about that on Twitter and stuff. What I don't see people talking about, though, because this is what I want to do in that shell. I want to play the Royal Scions, okay?
Okay.
So I have the Royal Scions out. Then I Luca into this. Then I give this +2/+1 from the Royal Scions.
Mm-hmm.
Then I attack with this. It now has 7 power. Then I hit Alrund's Epiphany for free off the top.
Oh.
Rinse and repeat. Game over. It just needs absolutely everything to go right.
Yeah.
I don't see why people aren't doing this. You could also play Elspeth, another way to give +2 power.
Or, you know, just the 2 mana, like you were saying before. Double its power, then you can play whatever you want.
Yeah. But let's be honest, like, Alrund's Epiphany is what you want to hit off this.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Like, the Lorehold command is sweet, but, I mean, they intentionally made you not able to hit Alrund's Epiphany without extra work.
Yeah. Or you do something crazy and some weird convoluted thing where you're trying to do one of the ultimatums off of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's also 7, so you're like, sweet. One of the ultimatums. I'll put a package together.
Ultimate.
Yeah.
What's that one called?
That's the worst
Brilliant
one, though.
or something?
Yeah, you gain some life.
It's still fucking sweet if you're hitting them for 5 and then casting that for free.
That's true.
Or hitting them for 7, I mean.
I'm down for this. I love that Lorehold gets this, like, free casting spells off the top thing that usually is like a kind of blue red ability. And
I love the design of this card. I don't know if anyone's going to play it ever.
Yeah.
But it's powerful.
Definitely.
It's not inconceivable to me that this could be a thing.
Yeah, I like that transmogrify thing, just because you can swing with that on turn 4. So.
Yeah, or you could go a little more classic and just try to reanimate it somehow.
Mm-hmm. With you know, these are the colors in this set to reanimate some stuff. So I guess not creatures; it's more artifacts. But yeah, seems pretty.
Doesn't
sweet.
fit into anything that's going on right now, and you know. But maybe when Eldraine rotates and we have to come up with some new decks that aren't just adventures mid-range piles, you know, we actually start to experiment.
Exactly.
Maybe this will make its way out of the woodwork.
I will say, once we get into these Elder Dragons, I will laugh because I had seen quite a few takes on Twitter that people were mad. Surprise! People were mad.
Wait. Magic nerds were complaining on Twitter?
Yeah. That they weren't all 7 power. Like the other Elder Dragons. How can you call this an Elder Dragon if it's not a 7 power or something? Well, I don't know. It's called.
Haven't there been like a remake
Magic
of
cards.
Nicol Bolas that
didn't have that, and it doesn't matter. Anyway,
because that's irrelevant.
It
that's
doesn't
why.
matter. Moving on to the next one. This is Galazeth Prismari. It's 2 blue-red for an Elder Dragon 3/4 with flying. When Galazeth Prismari enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Artifacts you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast instant or sorcery spells. Make a Mox. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, this one's great, I think.
I like that it costs 4. I love that.
Yeah, so this is obviously friends with Goldspan Dragon, and it curves right
100%.
into it. And it does the same kind of thing of present a threat and still have mana up to protect it.
Mm-hmm.
So I could totally see this being what the Is It Tempo deck was missing. Just another, like, this is a weaker gold. It's not as strong on rate as Goldspan Dragon is, but it's a similar thing. It's adding, like, Goldspans 5 through 8 to the deck of, now I just slam a dragon and I hold up my counter spells.
Exactly. Or just, like, legit ramps you when you play your Goldspan right after it. They're like, oh, sick. I'm making a ton of treasure. And now they're just extra lands.
Yeah, like if you had any way to generate a treasure earlier in the game, which you can do with the cards that you discard on end step, you like cycle them away to make a treasure. You drop this on 4, now you have 2 mana to protect it, much like with Goldspan. You negate whatever they're going to kill it with. Next turn you Goldspan and shields are still up, and you're just sitting pretty
for a long time. I wonder what else like low, just like it also just says artifacts. So like I don't know if there's any sweet artifacts, like really cheap artifact creatures you could play that all turn into mana dorks after you slam this down.
Yeah, that's the other way to go, right? Like full combo. Reminds me a bit of, or people are drawing comparisons to Urza in Modern, and Urza's obviously a lot stronger than this card, but it's that that card dominated Modern. So, this card seems like the best one to me, just on rate. And I think people are going to try to do the blue-red treasure thing, but I don't think you need to make this card good. I think it's just a pretty good card.
Yeah, it feels pretty good to me. I like it quite a bit, and you could see some, once again, big stuff going on as far as like you can ramp into some big spell or whatever you want to do, or just best friends with Goldspan Dragon. I am a fan of this one. As you said, it's probably my favorite of the bunch. Glad that we got it. We talked about it.
It's not my favorite, but it's the one I think is best.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, to me, it's probably one of my favorite. But moving on, this is from your. Are we saying that?
Yes,
it's your college, right?
Well, I guess so. I guess since I literally went to school for math, then I would have to.
I mean, I'm considering the Prismari probably. I went to that college technically, I guess.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Drama. This is Tanazir Quandrix, 3 green-blue for a 4/4 flying trample. When it enters the battlefield, double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. Whenever it attacks, you may have the base power and toughness of other creatures you control become equal to Tanazir Quandrix's power and toughness until end of turn. So this is interesting. It kind of goes tall and it pays you off for going wide. I don't know. This one kind of bores me a bit. It's just comes into play, doubles something's counters, and then I guess if you untap with it, you just kill them probably because you have 2 or 3 creatures that are like it overruns almost for free.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the overrun effect that's nice, but obviously that means that you're playing a lot of other kind of smaller things. I don't love that you just double someone's counters, because if you draw this late and you don't have a board, it just is a
That's the thing, right? The other 2 we talked about are really great on an empty board, and this one's not bad because it's a 4/4 flying trample, but it's not great on an empty board.
It doesn't affect anything
to make it
even when you
particularly good.
Yeah, even when you have your first attack, if you get to play another card on that turn, that's not really changing. That's power, I guess.
Right, unless it has haste, which
not in these colors.
Not known for.
The art looks.
I mean, green has some haste, but
it's not super exciting to me.
Like this is your fractal token commander, I guess.
Yeah. Like this is sweet if you get to play that one sorcery that makes a fractal token equal to the number of cards in your library, and then you play this and double it. Sure. Then it's just a giant thing that can be chumped for days. That gets a little bit bigger when you attack with this, but it it's not like if you want to make the biggest fucking thing you could possibly make, sure, this will help for sure. But that's kind of all I have to say about this. I'm not super excited about it. However, this next one, more interested in. Shadrix Silverquill, 3 white-black for a 2/5 Elder Dragon with flying and double strike. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may choose 2. Each mode must target a different player. Target player creates a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying. Target player draws a card and loses 1 life. Target player puts a +1/+1 counter on each creature they control. Number 1, the art is the best of all of them. It's absolutely...
Yeah, but can I just say, though, that they're all great art? Like,
That's
I
true.
think Raymond Swanland did a really nice job on this set. I do agree that I like this one the best, but
because
I was admiring when you posted these in the show notes. I'm like, these all look amazing.
Super cool.
And I like that by using the same artist, it just feels like the aesthetic is kept...
unites them together, yeah.
Exactly. Whereas sometimes you have like, this leader looks like, he's a Baroque oil painting, and then this one looks like he's in a comic book.
Yeah.
I like that this is all kept the same, so it it adds to the immersion that they're all, vying for some sort of power in the same world.
Exactly. This one has like beautiful ink flying off of it and some like little lens flares, which are fun.
Gotta love lens flares.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Obviously, when you look at this card, it feels like it's a straight commander card because
as soon as it mentions like targeting different players and stuff,
you're like, oh, okay. So the commander player.
I actually think it's pretty cool one-on-one though.
Yeah.
Like you choose, sometimes putting a +1/+1, they won't have any creatures. Okay, fine. You get a +1/+1 counter on each creature. Or you just give them a 2/1 to chump this. Like the decisions are interesting.
Yeah. Sometimes you're going to give them cards because then they don't have any blockers, or their blockers aren't big enough, or those kinds of things. But I really like
sometimes you want them to lose that 1 life.
Yeah, because then maybe they're at 5 and this will kill them, or things like that. I just think it's a really interesting type of card that you read it looks like it's a commander for sure. I don't know if it'll see any other play besides that, but I really like the idea of this design, even when you're forced to give your opponent something.
It reminds me a bit of Rankle. Rankle was kind of the opposite, where both players had to give up something. So if you wanted your opponent to discard a card, you would have to do so as well. If you wanted your opponent to sack a creature, you would have to do so.
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't really thinking about that, but that makes a lot of sense.
Of course, this triggers start of combat, and that was like if it dealt damage.
Exactly. So that your opponent could like try to stop it.
But again, this is awesome into an empty board because you play this, combat starts, you give them the useless counter, they have no creatures, and you draw a card or you make a 2/1.
Yeah, hit them for 4. Seems good. I think.
No, I just mean like just play this. Nothing's on the board.
Oh no, yeah.
Play it pre-combat, and then you get a 2/1, or you.
Gotcha. Because it triggers even when it's not attacking. That's
it's just at the start of combat.
On your turn. Awesome, love it.
So Quandrix is the only one that isn't good on an empty board so far.
Maybe that should just be our test. Is it the empty board test? Let's see.
Yeah, the empty board test. Meanwhile, Quandrix is going to be like the only one people play, and we're going to look like idiots.
Well, I'm prepared to do that. Anyway. Yeah.
You were going to say something about Commander, though.
No, I mean, I was just mainly saying that it seems super fun in Commander because anytime you can just give people stuff for free and become friends with them, it seems...
Yeah, like the fact that you have to target an opponent is almost a bonus here, because you could be like, guys, I have to target somebody, and you can use it as like a favor chip. Who wants to buy my favor,
Because if I'm looking at this and I'm building a deck, almost my entire deck is going to do shit like this, probably. Because I'm like, hey... and most of it's going to be like, hey, I'm looking for either whoever's weakest at the moment, or whoever's doing the best, and I need them to protect me. Either one of those things, I'm like, hey, I'll give you one of the modes, but I get to choose what it is. And they're like, okay, well, free stuff's free stuff. I'm like, yeah.
Or just be like, I'll do it if you kill that creature.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Stuff like that. Or if you attack that player, then I'll give you, another creature for blocking later, or a card, or whatever you want. But I like those choice cards. They're fun. And this seems like a better one because it's on a creature. A lot of times those choices are kind of on spells.
Yeah, totally. No, I like this design. I don't know if it's good in Standard. But
it's probably not good in Standard, but I like it. And I'll probably try to do something with it. But I think you seem like I could see you wanting to do something with this next one.
I love Witherbloom.
Yeah.
I love black-green. It's my favorite color combo. So this one was the last one spoiled, the one I was most excited for, and also the one I was most confused by when I read it. So I don't really know what to make of it. So... we got Beladros Witherbloom, 5 black green. 4/4 flying. Okay. The beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. And pay 10 life. Untap all lands you control, activate only once each turn. At first I was like, what the hell is this? But after thinking about it a little more, I think I just love the design they went with on this card. I don't know if it's good or bad. Traditionally, doubling your lands has been busted, no matter how steep the cost appears at first sight. But, this is not Wilderness Reclamation. This is not Nissa who shakes the world. But I bet it's a little better than it looks. So it's obviously an homage to Verdant Force, which creates a 1/1 Saproling at each upkeep. This creates something that's a little better than that. It's a 1/1 that dies into 1 life. And the fact that it flies is a little better. I think a 4/4 flyer in general is a little better than a 7/7 vanilla. And then obviously you have this pay 10 life ability. I don't know, like I'm imagining a Sultai deck slams this, untaps, all runs Epiphanies. Now it has, 2 Ravens, this thing, a Pest. Is that good enough? I don't know. Like, why wouldn't you just play Ultimatum if you have 7 mana in your Sultai deck? But
yeah, I like the obviously once again all these Elder Dragons is going to go into Commander just because it's that's the entire format. It's called Elder Dragon Highlander is EDH. So that would make sense, and the each upkeep is huge in Commander because that means you're going to get 4 for each rotation. So I obviously seeing this from that lens, I get all of that stuff. I really
Plus you could just pay 40 life per turn cycle and just have all your lands untapped for everybody's turn.
So there you go. You can do that into eternity. I do like that the ability to untap your lands is instant speed. I think that's really cool.
For sure.
So the other ones, it's, you could attack into this and they could be like, all right, I'm going to pay 10 life, but like either I have some flash things I want to do or you can try to fuck around with something like that. But I don't know. It could be sweet. Obviously, untapping your lands is awesome, and I like that.
And I'm really loving the way Witherbloom looks with all the life gain stuff and then the ways to pay life for kind of busted effects.
Exactly.
I think that's a really fun design space. My only struggle with this card is like currently in standard for 7 mana, the expectation is that you win the game, right? You're going to compare against Sultai Ultimatum or Emergent Ultimatum.
Yeah.
And it's like that card just wins the game. So why am I playing 7 mana don't win the game when there's 7 mana win the game?
That makes sense. Is this even one of the things that you wouldn't even want to like search for this, right?
You can't. Right?
Oh, because there's 2 colors. Yeah.
So the other option then is like Reanimator. So if you're going to reanimate this, then now I'm starting to buy it because you're cheating it out ahead of. If you're just trying to ramp up into this, you should probably just play Sultimatum. But if you're going to mill this over somehow and then or discard it and then reanimate it, that I can buy and then have all your mana up to protect it. That seems cool. So I think if this is going to be a thing, it's some sort of Reanimator shell.
Yeah.
Like I love Reanimator, so I'm gonna try this. We just don't really have any good reanimation things.
Yeah.
Necessarily, like Nissa is the best one.
Are you playing Rise again?
Nissa already. Yeah, exactly. Nissa's the best one. But Nissa asks that you already have 7 lands to return this.
So that's frustrating. But then when you return it, it's a what is it, a 5/5? So that's a little bit better. I don't know. It seems hard. Like
6/6. It puts 2 counters.
Oh, it puts 2. I thought it was 1. Okay. If you can, use the tokens for something.
Yeah, I'm loving the look of Witherbloom, and I'm gonna build some horrible Witherbloom mid-range deck.
It seems cool.
And then also a horrible Witherbloom Reanimator deck that tries to reanimate this, and I'm gonna have a lot of fun losing. But I'm excited.
I do like the look of it. Anyway, hey Jeff, do you hear that?
What?
I think it's last call.
Last call already?
Yeah, already. Wow. We better go to last call.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Yeah. All right. We're both we're twice as mad this episode.
Yes.
Because wow, that was a really good
the
sound.
fact that you picked my beer makes me a little happier. So maybe I'm just regular mad.
Oh, okay. So you're just a mad Tom, but I'm twice as mad Tom because you didn't pick mine, and I also didn't pick mine.
Yeah,
I'm just
that makes sense.
So as always, we are rating our beers on a scale of bronze to mythic, which of course are the tiers in Arena that you can play in. A quick overview if you are new to the show. These are never talking about players and what we think about players who are in different tiers. That's important to note. It's just a way to rank things. So this is not how I feel about bronze players. But however, bronze beers are trash. They're the worst. You don't even want to finish them. Silver beers are macro brews or things that you just not a lot is going on, but they're kind of there. Gold are fine, but you just won't really think about them or drink them that much. Platinum is a solid beer you'll definitely drink again, and you like it. Diamond is exceptional, and you'll recommend to someone. And then Mythic is the absolute best beer you would recommend to a stranger at the store, on the street, at a bar, anywhere. You love, love, love that. So let's start off with the one we're not drinking right now, which is the orange creamsicle.
Yes. Sure. So I did think they did a really good job of executing on what they wanted to. To me, this did taste like an orange creamsicle. I totally got that. Like the kind of creaminess they had in there gives me that kind of milk product vibe. It definitely was orangey. But as I kind of mentioned, I don't like creamsicles, so that's why I didn't really like this one that much. It's very sweet, you know, and I wish the ale part of creamsicle ale was a little more pronounced.
Interesting. That's so. I have exactly the opposite feeling, where I got the cream ale for sure, and it tasted like a nice, you know, cream ale. I was missing some orange. It wasn't as like I was thinking it was going to be a lot sweeter than it was, which was actually kind of nice.
Being crazy?
Yeah.
Oh man, that smells like orange.
Really? I didn't get a ton of it, but it was like when I poured it out, I was like, oh, this color's a lot lighter than I thought, and tasting it,
didn't look like I thought it would for sure. It was very pale.
I mean, I thought it was nice. It would, if it's like ice cold on a hot day, it would be good. But today it was like, it was fine. I will probably forget it and then be like, oh, and I'll probably pick it up one time being like, have I tried this before? And I'll taste it like, oh, right. Yep. It was fine.
Right.
I'm going to give it a gold for sure.
Yeah, I was thinking gold too. And I'm only kind of giving it gold because it's like, for me, they executed on their design plan.
Yeah. I can definitely tell that they weren't trying to go overboard. And it definitely wasn't too much, and they could have possibly bumped it up, and I'd be totally fine. It's definitely not desserty in my mind. As opposed to some of the other ones we've had that are more dessert-focused, it didn't feel like that to me. Where I was like, this is borderline if I'm going to like it. I was like, it definitely tasted like beer to me.
I guess I see what you're saying. Like, I think maybe the thing is I don't want a beer that tastes like creamsicle, and this tasted too much like creamsicle for me. Yeah. So if they're going to do that thing, don't try to be safe, because I'm not going to like it anyways. So you might as well kick it up into high gear for, like, you know, the customers like you who want it to taste like a creamsicle.
So it's definitely the kind of one that, like, I could get more and be fine with it, and be like, oh, it's really just like a cream ale. It's not super creamsicle-y. But it's not something I'm going to show, like, this thing is crazy and it tastes like you're drinking a creamsicle. It doesn't have that quality at all. Which most of the time when I'm going for something crazy, stupid, weird like this, that's basically what I'm looking for. But
true. I guess if you're buying the creamsicle ale,
you're expecting
want it to taste like a creamsicle.
But all around, I think it was like, you know, it's a fine beer. I just don't care too much for it. But yeah, I could have it again and be like, oh, it was very nice. So, but
I probably wouldn't have it again.
But
you know, if somebody had one and was offering me one or whatever.
Exactly. Sure. That's the classic. Like, hey, if someone hands you a beer, are you not going to drink it? Like,
right.
So,
actually, even bronze beers, I'd be like, yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for the Coors, or thanks for the Molson.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
I don't consider Coors and Molson bronze beers, to be fair.
Oh, those are silver. Bronze
those
is
are
like
silver.
Bad macro brews.
Yeah, bronze is like you took that macro brew and you left it outside and you cracked it and you're like, I don't even want to finish this. Okay. There have been beers where I taste them and I'm like, I can't even.
Those ones I might turn down.
I'm dumping it in the.
My friend's like, hey, do you want this Budweiser that I opened last night and forgot to drink and left out in the sun? I'd be like, no, I don't want that.
That's what I consider bronze, where like something went wrong. Like, this is not correct. Like, something was bad. So we haven't had one of those yet.
Am I going to get sick?
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I think, like, really bottom of the barrel. Is this even beer? Like, you kind of missed some ingredients, is how I feel with bronze. That's why we've never seen them. Or a silver beer. We don't really bring silver beers.
Yeah.
One day, though, we'll bring a silver beer. But as far as this Twice as Mad Imperial IPA. What do you think?
Yeah, I love this beer. To me, this is kind of the quintessential example of, people might not like Mad Tom because they feel it's too strong.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, I definitely won't like Twice as Mad Tom. And then this is when I give, my speech, I guess, that actually the doubles are usually smoother tasting because the alcohol balances out the hops and the barley flavor that is what you're perceiving as strong. A lot of people will get an IPA and be like, ooh, it tastes strong. And they think it's because it's 6 or 6.5%, but the quote-unquote strongness that they're tasting is actually the hops or the barley, the malt character. And so when you have this Twice as Mad Tom, it actually is more balanced. The double IPAs tend to be a bit more balanced than their single IPA counterparts and taste smoother. Now it's kind of more dangerous, right? Because it's, now it's like 8.5% and it tastes less strong.
Yeah.
For me, this is, kind of the quintessential example of this. I like it better than Mad Tom. I think it's a more balanced beer, and I think it's just delicious.
I agree. I think it's a lot better than Mad Tom, and probably one of the best Muskoka beers that I've had. I like it quite a bit. Usually
it's my favorite that they make too.
Yeah, I definitely think that's correct. It is probably the best one they make. So with that, I'm gonna go nice and high. Give this a diamond. I like this.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a mythic with the full the full understanding that there's a bit of nostalgia factor.
Gotcha.
Going into that rating that I kind of cut my teeth on craft beer with Muskoka beers and Mad Tom in particular, and when I found Twice as Mad Tom, I had that expectation that it would be too strong for somebody who's kind of new to craft beer like
gotcha.
me. Like, it's actually better. Holy shit.
Nice.
And that kind of blew
this
my
was
mind.
like, I got it. Okay. Nice. All right. That's cool. I like that story. That's good. It seems
so
great.
this is just one of my favorite beers.
Nice. All right. I think it's great. It definitely is a great representation of like an Imperial IPA.
There was also a time, like a little before you moved here, that Muskoka was like the kind of craft beer. There wasn't much. There was a few other kind of breweries you could get, but it was the first kind of big craft brewery, if that makes sense, along with Mill Street.
Yeah. But with that, I think it is closing time.
Closing time.
We sing this every episode.
If
but
only there were more songs about it.
So if you want to send us some songs about closing time or something about the end of a podcast, I don't know, you can reach us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah. You can't communicate that information to us on MTG Arena itself, but you can give us a fun emoji or emote or, sticker if you have one of your favorites. Yep. We'll be playing under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
Yes. And if you want to talk to me personally about any of my views on this podcast or the editing or any of that stuff, you can find me personally at Zulberg on Instagram and Twitter. That's ZEULBERG. But Jeff, where can they find you?
You can find me at Blues Brews MTG on Twitter. And, I haven't streamed in a while, but I might get back to it at some point. If I do, I'll be streaming at twitch.tv/bluesbrews.
Absolutely. And please, if you like the show, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, anywhere that you can find us or you're listening to us right now. Just give us a little love. It'd be great. It makes a huge difference for us. And give us your feedback because we will probably change depending on whatever you say. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Hoping that somebody brings Rakdos.
Good night. All right, that's fine.